Okay, hello. This is a Yoga 1 class. It's going to focus on hip opening. You might want to have a few props. You definitely do without them, but if you have blocks or something like blocks, that could be handy. And also, if you would like something to sit on, we will be doing some poses with knees on the ground. So if you want something cushiony underneath, grab a towel or whatever you've got. So let's begin in a child's pose. And you can take the knees wide and big toes together. Stretch the arms long and then rest the forehead down. And this is where, if your forehead doesn't meet the floor comfortably, you could use a block if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. And just start to let yourself land. Deepen your breath. Feel the breath as it fills the sides of the rib cage. Nice and smooth transition from inhale to exhale, and from exhale to inhale. You're finding the fullness and the ease of the breath. And then with these next few breaths, let the hips get heavier towards the heels. Just relaxing there, softening through the entire pelvis and the tops of the thighs. And then imagine that your breath could flow down into the hips. Further creating that feeling of softness and release. Down and around the sacrum, lower back. The sides of the waist fill with breath. Just a couple more here. Really, we're just building our attention. We're building some awareness in this region of the body. And committing yourself to treating yourself with kindness here. Okay, and then we'll make our way to hands and knees for a moment. We're just going to bring knees in a little bit so that they're under the hips. And we'll take a couple rounds of cat-cow. So open the collarbones, lift the seat, and then on your exhale, the tailbone tucks under, pressing into the palms and gazing towards the navel. So we want to continue with that soft and open breath cycle. And while this is usually considered a spinal warm-up, there is this strong pelvic tilt that we want to focus on here. So the tailbone lifts and then wraps under. And feel the lower belly draw in as you tuck as well. Last one like that. Okay, and then we're gonna walk our hands forward a bit and come down to Sphinx. So you're up on your elbows are just directly underneath the shoulders. And you want to strengthen the legs a little bit, firm the tops of the feet down into the floor, pinky toes down into the floor, and start to stretch the tailbone towards the heels. And again, take the shoulders back, nice long neck here. then bringing the hands back underneath the shoulders, lifting into a cobra, and then back again into your child's pose. Okay, so now we're going to send the hips over to the right and forward towards the hands. So it's kind of like this up dog, but you want to keep that engagement in the lower belly, and then send the hips to the left and back to the heels. And continuing like that, you can inhale on your way forward, exhale on your way back. We'll do 4 of these, so let's do 2 more, and keeping a little bit of that engagement of the navel drawing back towards the spine, just so that your lower back is supported here. And you balance just that little bit of inner support with the sense of fluidity, circular, soft easiness in the hips. I'm going to go the other way about 4 times. So often what can really create a sense of ease in this region of the body is a little bit of inner abdominal support, so that the more external muscles, hips, the buttocks, the hip flexors and quads, all of those can relax a little bit around that supported center. And then we're going to come back to our downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, send the tail up and back, and spread the fingers wide, press strongly into the arms, and a few breaths right here. If it feels good to stay steady, you can do that, or you may wish to pedal the feet, bending one knee and then the other. This is going to help to stretch the feet and the calves, along with your hamstrings. Again, there's that slight drawing in, right in the lower belly. Okay, and let's walk our feet towards our hands. So coming into a standing forward bend, you can have a micro bend in the knees. If it's difficult to reach the floor, this is another good use for blocks here under your hands. But you could always just take the hands to the shins, okay? And a little bit of bend in the knees is just fine. I want you to make sure that your feet are parallel rather than turned out, and then send your inner thighs back. And this is going to allow the pelvis to tilt forward, further stretching those hamstrings. Okay, still a slight drawing in right under the belly button. Just letting the spine cascade down. Drop the crown of the head towards the floor, unless that bothers your lower back, in which case you could keep the chest drawing forward a little bit. And take one more deep breath here. Okay, and then bending the knees a little bit. Press down into your feet and come up to standing. Sweep the arms up overhead, and then bringing the hands back to the heart, back to that intention to treat yourself with sweetness and kindness. Okay, then we'll do another forward fold with our left ankle crossed in front of the right. Okay, so you still want the hips to be more or less facing forward. There can be a micro bend in the knees, and it might feel just a little bit awkward if you've never done this before, but it's a nice way to stretch into the IT band, the outsides of the legs. So folding forward, again, fingertips, shins, blocks, whatever you can reach there. And along with the support of your arms, there's the support of the belly. Okay, but even as you support yourself from inside, feel the increasing softness of the outer hips especially, and down the outsides of the legs. Okay, and then we'll come to the other side. You might like to come up or simply just cross the other leg in front. Staying with the breath is really key here. You want to find a sense of volume in the pelvis, as though you could send your breath billowing into the hips. Okay, and then uncross the legs, so bringing your big toes together, bending the knees, and again, push into the feet. Sweep arms overhead, big breath in there, and hands to heart. Great. So now coming to the front of your mat, I'm going to come into a little flowing motion. So inhale, arms over the head, and fold forward. Bend the knees enough so that your hands can come to the floor. Step both feet back, finding a plank. One more breath here to widen your collarbones, and then release the knees to the floor and lower all the way down to your belly. Point the toes back, tailbone to heels. Draw those elbows in and lift into your cobra. And then exhale back to your child's pose again. And just notice if there's any difference in your pelvis. And walking yourself up to hands and knees. So the wrists are going to come right under the shoulders. You'll probably need to bring them back a little bit. And then let's tuck the toes under. This is going to give us a little stretch in the feet and more stability there. And now from here, we're going to take our right leg back behind us. And as you stretch the leg back, be careful that you're not lifting the hip up into the sky. So I want you to flex the toes and point them down at the floor. And we're also sending those inner thighs back. Okay, so inner thighs back, but not so much that you collapse in the lower back. So we still have navel to spine. Just firming the glute. One more breath. Wide collarbones. And release the knee back down. Toes tucked under. Same thing on the other side. So refresh the wideness of the chest. Nice long neck here. Chin slightly tucked. And then kicking back through that left heel. Really taking care that you're not hiking the hip up into the air. So flex the foot and point the toes down at the ground. Feel how that turns your inseam up towards the ceiling a little bit. Okay, so you can send really both inner thighs back a little bit, but not so much that your belly drops down or that you feel a compression in your lower back. So navel drawing in. All of this is going to create more space around the sacrum. One more big breath. Wide collarbones, reach through the heel and release the knee back down. So now we're going to flow with that. So we're going to inhale right heel back and then exhale, point the toe, draw the knee into the chest. And hug in on the exhale. Inhale, reach. Exhale, tuck. Inhale, reach. Squeeze your glute here as you lift the heel to the ceiling. And tuck in, belly draws in. Last one, reach. And release the right knee to the floor. Left leg back, reach, hip back and up, inhale. Exhale, point the toe, draw the knee in towards the chest. Inhale, reach for 2. Exhale, point the toe, tuck. Inhale, reach. Keep the navel engaged as you lift with the glute. Exhale, tuck. 2 more. Wide collarbones, long neck. And then after this, next time we reach, kick, 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 and release the knee back to the floor. Stepping back to downward dog. And then walking feet to hands again. Big breath in here, lengthen your spine. And then exhale, keep the length and fold a little further into the legs. Okay, bending the knees, push into your feet, rising up to stand. And then we'll take the hands into the heart. Okay, so coming into our first balance, we're going to press down into our right foot. I'll mirror you. And hug the left knee in towards the chest. Now, if you can't quite reach the knee, hands on the hips is fine. And we're just pressing down into that standing leg with that same energy, that same feeling like that last exercise, where we're kind of feeling the glute engage, firming down through that leg, and then drawing the left knee in. And can you feel a kind of a softness throughout this left hip and lower back, even though you're engaging through the core and through that right leg?
Let's try it on the other side. So we're trying to be able to simultaneously engage and soften. Press into your left foot, take that right knee in. Okay, and this will be a little bit hard to feel if you have your hands on your hips because you're using your hip flexor here, but that's okay, you're working on your strength. If you do have that clasp, then all of your engagement goes into the core and that standing leg. See if you can find deep breaths and actually soften through this entire hip flexor, just using the arms and biceps to draw that leg in. Okay, and then releasing back down. Nice. Okay, coming back to the front of the mat, we'll take just a tiny standing back bend. So drop your tailbone towards the floor, lift the arms up and the thumbs go back, and then folding forward over the legs. And stepping back with your right foot, we're going to take that back knee down. If you need some cushion, you can cushion that back knee. And take a moment to shift your hips down and forward and ensure that the front knee is right over the ankle. Let's bring the arms forward and up over the head. Similarly to that standing back bend, we want the tailbone to drop as we start to stretch the arms back. Palms are facing each other. Thumbs start to go back behind you. Now feel how you've got your hip points facing straight forward, and one action that helps that is, again, this inner spiral of your right thigh. So the inner thigh goes back a little bit. You're kind of widening your right seat to the right. But along with that, the navel draws in and up. One more big breath there. And release the hands to the mat. Step your back foot forward. We'll just switch sides here. Okay, so you want an appropriate length of your stance so that when you're shifted down into the hips, front knee is over the ankle. Okay, and strong core. Let's sweep the arms forward and up over the head. Relax the tops of the shoulders, the shoulder blades falling down the back. Reach up through the pinkies. Palms turn to face each other. Thumbs go back. And then focusing on that foundation, hip points face straight forward. Notice the action of your back leg with that. So the inner thigh rolls back and then lift with the lower belly. One more big breath there, stretching up, stretching back, and release. Hands to the mat, step the back foot forward, little bend in the knees, come to stand, sweeping up, and hands to the heart. We'll go all the way through a sun salute now, inhaling deeply, stretch up, exhaling, fold forward. Step both feet back so you've got your plank position, wide collarbones, and lower to your belly. You can bring the knees down first or come through chaturanga. Point the toes back, tailbone towards the heels, strong belly, elbows in, long neck, cobra, and downward facing dog this time. So tuck the toes, pressing back. And feel the hips lift up and back. Just allowing the spine to elongate, kind of hanging down out of the pelvis. And walk your feet towards the hands. Again, bend your knees, rise up, sweep up. Drop that tailbone as you take that tiny back bend and return to the heart. Exhale, continuing to flow here. Folding forward. Step back, we'll hold plank. Okay, feel the belly draw in and release the knees down. Now we're going to take all fours again, so walk your hands back, wrists under shoulders. We're just going to make some circles now with our right hip. So let's draw the heel into the glute, so we're engaging the hamstring a little bit here, and then we'll circle the knee out to the side. And you're going to notice that there will probably be a lot of compensating movement in your torso, and that's fine, but just be aware of that. And if you would like more of a challenge, you could try to really brace through the arms, strong core, and isolate the movement in the leg so nothing else moves. Okay, and then let's switch directions. Stay with it. And you can use those really deep, voluminous breaths so that you're not becoming rigid everywhere. You want to be supportive with whatever muscles need to be engaging, but let everything else be open and soft. All right, let's release, relax back into child's for just a moment. Big breath down into the hips. And let it all out. Okay, and then second side, so coming from all fours here, make sure the collarbones are wide, shoulders coming out of the ears. And then let's draw the left heel into the glute and start those circles. Okay, so there's many ways to do this, and you could just really go for a softer, more free-form movement, or you could go ahead and brace the arms, just keep the collarbones wide, core nice and strong, and limiting the movement to the leg. And this is going to really create some strength in the muscles around the top of the thigh. Notice if there's any areas that are difficult, smooth out that motion so you don't rush through the hard parts. Okay, let's go the other way a few times. Full range of motion. Hips want fluidity, want kind of softness along with their strength. Okay, and then release both knees to the floor. Again, rest back to child. Let that work go and feel the softness of your breath flow down into the hips. Okay, pressing back, downward facing dog. And let's bring the right leg up to the sky. Inhale as you come up, and exhale, step that foot forward between the hands. If it takes you several steps to get there, that's just fine, but you want a nice long stance. Bring the back heel down. We have heel to heel alignment or wider, and we're going to come to warrior one. So our chest is going to face the short edge of the mat, front of the mat. I want you to keep the outer edge of that back foot pressing down so the arches of the feet lift. Okay. Turn the pelvis towards the front of the room, front of your mat, but it probably won't come all the way, and that's just fine. You're kind of tacking this right hip back. And there is a bit of a back bend here. You won't be able to really drop that tail too much, but do keep your belly drawn in. And then drop the shoulder blades, lift the heart. You could look up if that feels good. And then we'll release the hands to the mat. Let's take a vinyasa. So find your way to plank pose. Lowering down, you can bring your knees down first or lower through chaturanga. Point the toes back strong, legs, elbows in, lift cobra. And downward facing dog. Staying with the volume of your breathing. Let it circulate through your body. And then second side, let's bring that left leg up. Inhale, and big step up. Foot comes between the hands. Take your time if you need to take several steps to get there. And then we'll ground the back heel down. The back foot's at a bit of an angle, and you don't want to be on a balance beam here. You want a little bit of width to your stance. Come on up as you're ready, chest facing the short edge of your mat. Notice if that pinky edge of your back foot is peeling up. It's really common. You want to try to seal that back down, and then keeping that, then square off your hips as much as you can. Okay, and then you want to draw the navel in towards the spine. Relax the shoulder blades down the back. Find the lift up through the pinkies. Keep tacking this left hip back a bit. One more big breath there. Lengthening, lifting, and releasing. Hands to the mat. Finding plank. Strong legs, strong core. Deep breath. Exhale as you come down. Big breath in as you take cobra. And downward facing dog on your exhale. Step back. You want to keep that steady flow of breath throughout the practice. 2. Turn this way. So feeling this outer front foot, find plank, inhaling, and hands to heart. Take a big step out towards the long edge of your mat, and we'll sweep the arms back behind us. Just a little chest opener here, so we're interlacing the fingers. Draw your elbows towards one another and start to stretch the knuckles towards the floor as you lift up through the chest. Draw your triceps towards one another. And if there's still a lot of a bend in those elbows, that's just fine. But most importantly, the shoulder blades are drawing towards one another, and you're trying to get the elbows a little closer. Okay. Have your toes a little bit pointed in for this one, and then fold forward. So here's where we kind of take that even deeper, that inner thigh rolling back action. And feel how that sends the sits bones up, 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 and allows the crown of the head to soften down towards the ground. Keep the shoulders out of the ears. Maybe you can bring your thumbs away from your hips a little bit. And then we'll release hands to hips. Make sure the knees are a little bent as you push into your feet and rise back up to stand. Okay, now we're going to turn our right foot out. So we have a slightly shorter stance than we would for a warrior. It's kind of like an equilateral triangle there. And we'll take Trikonasana, triangle pose. Shift your hips back, reach out over that right leg, and then take your hand onto your shin, or if you have a block, take the block to the pinky toe edge. And pressing into those pinky toe edges of the feet, as well as the big toe mound. And really lengthen from your strong belly out into the feet. Along with that, widen across your wingspan. And see if you can get a little longer from tailbone to crown. If it's okay on your neck, you can look up to the top thumb. And if you're not getting any side stretch around the waist on that top side, then you could increase this by turning the palm so that it faces the same direction as your right toes, and then bringing that arm up and over your ear, so it's big, big side stretch here. Keep the navel drawing into the spine, keep the breath really full, especially into the kidney area, back of the waist, breathing there. Okay, and then strong legs, come on, back up. Wonderful, we'll do the same thing on the other side. So take a moment to find your stance, heel to arch alignment, bump your hips back, reach out over that left leg, and bring the hand down onto the shin or block. Okay, now if you were kind of facing down here, try to open it up. Okay, and if that's really challenging, just keep that top hand on the hip. Okay, or you can bring the top arm up. Really go for the lengthening. So strong belly radiates out to the feet and legs. And notice how with that strength, it gives you a lot of space for the breath to flow. Widening across your arms, perhaps looking to the top thumb. And then if you're not feeling much in that top waistline, rotate the palm so that it comes up over your head. Reach the fingertips long. Lengthening, breathing deeply. And then make sure you've got that abdominal support as you press into the feet and legs and come back up. Now step the feet together, toes pointing straight forward. Lift the navel, turn your palms forward, and feel, breathe into this area right around the circumference of your low belly and low back. Sweep the arms up over the head, interlacing all but the index finger. And then pressing into both feet, we'll come up and over towards the right. If this is a lot on your shoulders, you can always take one hand down. Okay, and then come on back up. Keep that tailbone dropping, navel drawing in and up, and we'll come up and over. Keeping that spaciousness across the sacrum. And then back up and release, hands to heart. All right, so now we'll come to the front of the mat again, flowing once more. Drop the tail, sweep arms forward and up, and fold forward. Bend the knees, bring the hands to the ground. Step it back to your plank pose. Nice wide collarbones. Okay, and then if you'd like, try Chaturanga Up Dog. So really strong core, elbows come right into the waist. Flip to the tops of the feet and take upward facing dog. And then downward facing dog. Okay, right leg lifts up towards the ceiling, and we'll step the foot forward between the hands. Now we're going to stay on the ball of the back foot and come to a high crescent. Sweeping the arms forward and up overhead. And here we truly want the hip points to face forward, so we're really drawing this right hip crease back, and there's a strong lift of the navel. Okay, so now some options. We can take the hands back down to the floor, and then we'll have left hand down, right arm up for an easy twist. Okay, or bring your left elbow onto your right knee. Bring the palms together and press the top hand into the bottom hand to leverage into a deeper spinal twist. Now I want you to keep this right hip crease tacking back so the hips are truly square here. Find the length from tail to crown. Back thigh is floating up. Okay, super strong legs. Hands to frame the front foot. Well done. Step back to plank pose. And your choice of vinyasa. So you could try again this chaturanga, coming halfway down and then floating on tops of feet. And then we'll take downward facing. Feel the hips go up and back. Navel drawn in towards the spine. Okay, and then left leg sweeps up and back. Step the foot between the hands. Staying on the ball of the back foot, high crescent. And we'll work on those really square hips here. You can, again, feel the sense of the inner spiral in the back leg, the lift from the low belly. Notice how those two things serve to create more space in the lower back, from which you can then lengthen upwards through the spine. And how soft and how flowing can your breath be here? Can you still send that breath down into the pelvis? Release the hands down. Okay, so options. Easy twist with your right hand on the floor, left arm to the sky. Or bringing your right elbow to left knee, palms together. Press that top hand into the bottom hand and twist. Now as you do that, there may be a temptation for that back thigh to drop down, but keep it floating up. Keep the quadricep firm. Okay, and keep tacking this left hip back, so that the hips stay square. And keep the length, tailbone to crown. Those 2 points lengthening away from each other as you spiral, turning. Breathing. And release, hands to the mat, stepping back, plank. Your choice of vinyasa, which might mean resting in child's pose, it's up to you. You can always come down to your belly, taking that little cobra, and down dog, or child's. Deep breath. If you're in child's, press back to down dog. And then walking the feet up to the hands. rising to stand. And bringing hands in to heart. And again, we'll just take a moment to observe. You can close the eyes if you'd like. Feel a nice even pressure in the feet. Feel the breath flow into the entire circumference of the pelvis evenly. And this brings us into another balance. We're going to shift our weight into our right foot and then hold the left foot behind us for a quadricep stretch. If you need to go to a wall, go ahead and do that. I'm just trying to point that knee straight down. There's sometimes a tendency for the knee to go out or forward, so try to bring it right next to the right knee and maintaining that lift in the lowest part of your abdomen. You can include pelvic floor in that feeling. Maintaining that sense of evenness around the circumference of the pelvis, sacrum, outer hips, lower belly. And we'll release that foot back down. Same thing on the other side. So nice and strong, standing in that left foot, and hold the right foot just behind. Notice if the knee is going out to the side or forward, and do your best to point the knee down without distorting in the pelvis. So navel drawing in and up. If you can feel the pelvic floor also drawing in and up. And feel again how that inner lift creates more flow, more spaciousness around the circumference. Breathing into that space. Good. And we'll release that foot back down. Okay, so now we're going to take a revolving triangle, and this is one where you may wish to have a block. We're going to try this with our right foot forward, left foot back. So I'll mirror you. And again, this is a somewhat short stance. It's a triangle rather than a warrior, so about equilateral. We have the same kind of a stance as a warrior one in that the back foot's turned out. Okay, and then we'll take the left hand down either onto a block, or you can simply rest it onto the shin. If you can bring fingertips to the floor without a lot of roundness in your back, then go for it. Okay, and then we're working on squaring the hips, so draw that right hip up and back. And from there we can turn the chest. So we've got the right foot forward, left hand down. You can sweep the right arm up to the sky if that feels appropriate to you. And remembering that in our twists, we want to focus on the lengthening of the spine. And then from that length, then we find more depth in the twist. And keep pressing down through the right big toe. One more big breath here. Lengthen, open up, and release. Okay, we'll step that back foot forward, forward fold, and rise to stand, inhaling up. And exhaling, hands to heart. Okay, then we'll take the left foot forward, right foot back, squaring the hips, and then tipping forward from the pelvis. So a couple options, hand on shin. Okay, and that's going to require a lot of core support because you're balancing more. Okay, that's still a good thing to practice. Or you've got your right hand down either on a prop of some kind or maybe fingertips to the floor. For most people, having the palm flat will create that roundness in the spine. So if you are bringing the hand down a little lower than you're used to, really emphasize the length of the spine. Again, you can feel that the inner thighs are going back behind you. Feel the outer hips draw back, especially this left outer hip drawing back. And then from there, turn and twist. Feel free to keep the hand on the hip there, or you can open it up, widening from heart to fingertips. Keep the breath flowing deep and steady. sending the breath throughout the body, lengthening and twisting. And keep rooting down through the big toe mounds. And from that increased grounding, widen and open more. And release. Step that back foot forward. And then bend the knees a little. Rise up to standing. And hands to heart. Okay, so now let's take a chair pose. You want to have your feet about hip width apart and make sure that they're parallel. We'll sit back. Try to keep your knees right over your ankles or slightly forward, but not forward over the toes. So here rather than here. Keep it back. Navel drawing into the spine. And just notice if you feel that the tailbone is tucking under, in which case inner thighs back, sits bones back. If you feel that you're compressed in the lower back, then create more of that lower belly lift until you feel, again, that sense of evenness around the whole pelvis. Okay, and then press into the feet. Come on, back up. And release. Hands to heart center. Okay, so now we'll take eagle pose. Let's sweep the arms over the head with an in-breath, and we'll take the left elbow under the right. Okay, so I'm going to marry left under right. If this is too much in the shoulders here, then you can simply hug this right arm from underneath. Okay, and then again, we'll sit back into that chair, keeping the evenness in the pelvis. Shift your weight over into your right foot and bring the left thigh up and over the right thigh. Left toes can then tuck behind the standing calf. Okay, but as you do that, notice if your hips come off square and continue to drag this left hip crease back. And we'll release both feet to the floor and sweep arms up. And hands to the heart. Okay, again, arms overhead. And we'll swing left under right for side two. Okay, and then sitting down, sitting back. Shift the weight over into the left foot and bring right thigh up and over. And then release both feet down, sweep arms overhead, and release, hands to heart. Okay, so now we'll make our way into a pigeon pose or figure four. So you can flow down if you know that you like pigeon. Bring arms over the head, we'll fold forward, step it right back to your downward facing dog, and then we'll bring this right foot up. And then as you swing the leg forward, turn the knee out and bring your shin to the ground. You're going to walk the back foot back, toes tucked under on that back leg. That'll help you to square the pelvis. And if you feel that this is too much on your front knee, then a couple things you can do. You can take a towel, blanket, cushion of some kind underneath this right hip to help support. Okay, and if that still doesn't do the trick, then it's best if you come onto your back and bring that right thigh up and over the left, right ankle up and over the left thigh, rather. Okay, we want to flex the foot to help stabilize the knee and turn that knee out and away. From there, if you want more, you can hug the left thigh in using your hands. Those of you who are in pigeon, if you'd like, you can now fold coming onto elbows. Wherever you are, returning to that sweet flow of breath, the breath helping you to send your own kind attention throughout the body, giving yourself a really nurturing awareness. When we meet resistance in the body, it's often also with a little bit of resistance in the mind, right? We have this feeling like we want to dissolve the tension, or we want to hold on to a good feeling. Maybe we're tired of something that's been hurting. So creating a softness also in our mind as we breathe. The practice of yoga is not only to soothe what ails us physically, but to practice how you self-regulate. How do you soothe your own mind? Creating space. Just allowing yourself to a little bit more acceptance. Meeting yourself where you are with kindness. Take one more big breath there. And then we'll take the second side. So those of you on your back, you can simply switch. For those doing pigeon, you'll want to press into the hands and step back to your down dog. And then the left leg comes up and swings forward. And making sure that the hips are moving towards square here. So here again, we have the inner spiral of the back thigh. I find it helpful to have the back toes tucked under, at least initially, so you can feel whether you're turning the back leg out or not. And if it helps, bring a cushion or a blanket underneath the left hip. Okay, and then those of you on your back, making sure that the foot is flexed, left foot is flexed. And you can either keep the right foot on the floor or lift it and hold the back of the right hamstring. Okay, and those of you who are doing pigeon, you can fold onto the elbows, keeping the shoulders out of the ears, nice wide open heart, wide open breath. You might like to close the eyes. And feel the volume of your inner body. More and more capacious, really filling up with the breath. And let that breath really serve as kindness. Where you send your breath, you're sending your attention. Any place that your breath and attention touches, let that contact be a kind contact. Soothing touch. It's really easy to have our practice be just another place where we're aggressively problem solving. But instead, let's practice patience, practice sweetness, soothing mind and body. Noticing those places where you can't really feel the flow of the breath, and just with curiosity, see if it's possible to create a little bit more space there, a little bit more volume of breath in those tight areas. And then we'll make our way to seated. Now, this next posture can be really intense. We're going for a deep inner thigh opener. So I'll show you a modification in a moment. But if you want to go for it, then it's frog pose. And in frog, you're going to come to hands and knees, and then you're going to allow the knees to go wide. And rather than having the toes in, you're going to keep those shins going straight back. So rather than in, the ankles are as wide as the knees. Okay, and you're just going to continue to open the knees out to the sides, and you can again rest onto elbows. Okay, and if this is too intense, and it might be, then a really good modification is a variation of Happy Baby. So again, you would be on your back, and you would take the shins rather than the feet in your hands and just let the knees fall out to the sides. So give it a shot, and if it's too intense, then this variation of Happy Baby will be your friend. And the idea here is that you've got your arms along the inseams helping to put an extra passive weight on those inner thighs, helping to open the knees outwards. Those of you who are in frog pose, stay with it. Make sure you're breathing. And it's important here that our mind stays patient, curious. Keep the levity here. You don't want to be too aggressive with this one. If you do feel that you want a little bit more, send your hips back towards your heels slowly. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Breath is key. Okay, and then easing your way back out. So if you're in frog, nice strong belly, strong arms as you press back up. And now we'll come to seated. All right, so bring your feet out in front of you and bring your hands just behind your back. And just let the knees go side to side a couple times. Alrighty, so now from here, we'll take the right leg out in front, and we'll take the left foot in for Janu Shirshasana. If it's difficult to sit up straight here, then sit up on a blanket or pillow. And we want to turn towards the straight leg, lift up tall, and then fold forward. Hands can be on the floor, anywhere along the leg itself, or perhaps you can go for the toes. And then coming back up, we're going to take the left hand and plant it down on the ground outside this knee. Knee comes down, and then bring the right foot to the floor as you take stargazer. I'm just going to turn so you can see. Tailbone lengthening towards this right heel, towards the long leg. And then gently release and sit back down, switch sides. So now it's the left leg long, right leg folded. Turn towards the straight leg, lift up, long spine, and fold. Staying with the breath, staying with your inner awareness. Letting the pose naturally express itself little by little. No forcing. And We'll come on back up and take Stargazer. So we plant the hand down, come up onto one knee and one foot, and we'll stretch through the side body, finding the navel in towards the spine, tailbone towards the long leg. And then we'll slowly come back down. Great. So now from here, we'll take a twist. Let's bring our right leg out in front and the left leg up and over. And then you may be able to take this bottom leg and wrap it around towards the outer left hip. Making sure that both sits bones are down on the ground here. Take a moment to find your legs and your hips, and then turn and twist, hugging around the knee. And see if you can feel both sits bones equally heavy down into the ground, and from there, lengthen up through the top of the head. You can press this left big toe mound down, hug the knee in a little closer. One more breath. And then come on back to face forward. And we're going to either come into cow face pose or a half cow face pose. So if you can, we're just going to bring the knees together, one knee stacked over the other. And this is a big hip opener, really opening across the sacrum borders. Now, if this is feeling too much, take this bottom leg out, remembering always practicing with kindness and gentleness. Okay, and then even in this pose right here, the half cow face pose, we've got the inner thighs drawing together, knees stacked. And from there, you may wish to fold forward a little bit, maybe even go for the bottom of the foot again. And this is a really nice variation, really helps to get into the sacrum border there, in the back of the hip. If you are in a vertical version, feel free to take the arms. We would have our right arm up, left arm down. You can clasp hands behind you. That's a big shoulder opener, totally optional. You could also choose to fold. And we'll gently release. And let's bring the feet in front. Once again, we'll take that kind of swishing side to side, release, softening. Okay, and then it's the left leg out in front, right foot up and over, and either keep the bottom leg long or wrap for Marichi's twist. And take a moment to see if you can get both sits bones equally heavy. Get this right big toe mound down so you're not on the outer edge of the foot. For this one, you want to plant down into that foot. And then hugging around the right knee with the left elbow. Sending the breath throughout the body. Sits bones descend, crown of the head rises. And we twist and turn little by little. Come on back to face forward, and we'll take either full Gomukhasana, cow face pose, or the half with the bottom leg out straight. If you're doing the half, you might start a little bit of a forward fold. Okay, keep that straight leg really active, flexed, reaching out through the heel. Okay, or full Gomukhasana if you want a little more for the shoulders. Having left elbow up, right elbow down, clasping fingers behind your back. Of course, you could use a strap or just hold onto the clothing. Deep breathing. And you could even forward fold if you're in the vertical version. Breathing in and around the sacrum. Gently release that, and once again, just a little easy windshield wiper. So, okay. All right, last few seated postures. So from here, we're gonna come an open twist here, knee, and then the left hand behind. I'm just gonna start to lengthen and turn. After you lengthen, then you begin to turn. Deep breathing. And come on back. All right, we're gonna swing the legs around and come to lay down on our back. And we're gonna take a side stretch on our back. So first I'd like you to pretend you're doing Tadasana, or standing mountain pose. I want you to really stretch your legs out straight, flexing the feet, reaching the heels away from you, especially through the inner heels. Draw the pinky toes back towards you, firm quads. Okay, and a slight drawing in of the navel. Okay, keep all of that activity. We're going to sweep the arms up over the head and grab hold of your right wrist in your left hand. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to keep these Tadasana legs, but we're going to just inch them over to the left. So we're coming into just like that standing side bend, only we're on our back. And this is going to give us the feedback of the floor so we know if one sits bone is coming up away from the ground. And we want to try to keep them both grounded. So walking the feet over, and then it's just a slight lengthening or reaching through the right arm. You don't really need to arc over so much in the upper body. And what we really want is an expansion through the waist and around the outer part of our iliac crest, side of the pelvis there. Wraps around towards the lower belly. Just breathe into that spot. Okay, and then walking inch by inch back to center. Same thing, other side. Hold the left wrist in your right hand, making sure that both sits bones stay in contact with the floor, so there's no twisting of the pelvis here. Only a side bend. Deep breaths, strong legs reaching through those inner heels. Then come on back to center. Bring the feet flat to the floor now. Take care that the toes are pointing forward rather than out, so you want your feet hip distance and parallel. And now I'll bring the palms to the floor just beside the hips, and we'll lift up into bridge. So bring the tailbone up away from the floor first, and then press really strong down into those feet and lift the pelvis up. If you'd like, you can add the heart opener, interlacing the fingers under your sacrum. Walk the triceps in towards one another, lifting the heart as you feel really strong and stable in the legs and hips. Keep the tailbone reaching towards the backs of the knees. Inner thighs rolling down. And walking the shoulders back out. Release slowly back down onto your back. Hug the knees to the chest. And then just some gentle rocking side to side. And keeping the knees together, you can just hold the knees with your hands and just steer the knees around in a few circles. Knees stay together. So we'll do a few each way. I want you to just feel the whole perimeter of the sacrum as it makes contact with the ground. And make those circles now a little softer, just reminding the lower back of its ability to be soft
and flowing. And then reversing directions, knees together. Just little pelvic circles around the sacrum there. It's almost like just with the weight of your body, you're giving a gentle massage to the lower back. And letting those circles be as free-flowing as possible as you release tension from the low back. Wonderful. So from here, we'll make our way into Shavasana. So stretch the legs out long, turn the palms to face up. You might like to walk the shoulder blades under you a little bit, or make some adjustments in the position of the arms, legs, head. And then we'll take a big deep breath in. And big deep breath out. Letting everything soften, body and mind. Letting go. Continue to feel the sensations within your body. Noticing the places where the breath can flow, the kindness can flow a little bit more freely. And the key there is the softness of your attention. If we meet that resistance with more mental resistance, there can be a tendency for those tensions to stay a bit tangled. But if we can really patiently and almost creatively lean in, we can allow some change, allow some flow. I say creatively because it's this partnership, this dance between intention and flexibility. Right? We bring our awareness to something, but always with that patience and that humility that what's going to come of it, you don't always know at the outset. So whether it's this physical resistance or situational resistance in life, we give ourselves inner support, just enough, but not so much that we become more rigid and fighting. To let be is to let change, let move. As you're ready, just begin to wiggle fingers and toes. Bring the feet to the floor and gently roll to one side. Make your way to seated. So thank you for practicing with me. I hope you found both strength and stability as well as ease and flexibility in the body and in the mind. And may any benefit that comes to us through this practice ripple out into the world. Thank you. Namaste.